Never underestimate how quickly life can flip upside down, because one cruel laugh was all it took to change everything. Today's story isn't just about wealth, glamour, or heartbreak. It's about what really reveals a person's true character when no one's supposed to be watching. A millionaire thought he had it all: the perfect career, the dream house, and the fiancée he believed was the love of his life. But in one unexpected moment, when he caught her mocking the maid, the truth came crashing down, and his next move left everyone speechless. Stay with me, because what happens next is the kind of twist you won't see coming. Our story begins in a sprawling mansion that looked like something out of a movie. Tall marble pillars, sparkling chandeliers, and rooms so wide you could play soccer inside them. For anyone who stepped through those doors, it was impossible not to feel small in comparison. The man who owned this mansion was Alexander. He wasn't born rich. He grew up in a tiny apartment with 2 siblings and parents, who worked 2 jobs each just to pay rent. He fought tooth and nail to build his empire. Through sheer grit and smart business moves, he became a millionaire in his early 30s. And despite the fancy cars and the luxury lifestyle, deep down he never forgot where he came from. Enter Victoria, his fiancée. She was beautiful, sharp, and charismatic. Everyone around Alexander admired her, saying she was the perfect match. But what people saw in public wasn't always what was happening behind closed doors. Now working quietly in this mansion was Maria, the maid, a middle-aged woman who had been through her share of hardships. She had a daughter back home who depended on the money Maria earned. Maria wasn't just cleaning floors and carrying trash bags. She was carrying the weight of her family's survival. One afternoon, Alexander was finishing a call in his study. He stepped into the courtyard when he overheard laughter, echoing through the marble halls. At first, he thought it was just Victoria chatting with a friend. But then he saw it. Something that froze him in place. Maria, dressed in her plain uniform, was carrying an oversized garbage bag almost as big as her. She was clearly struggling. And instead of helping, Victoria stood in her green designer dress, pointing and laughing. "Look at her," she said, her voice dripping with mockery. "Can't even carry a bag without looking pathetic." For a moment, Alexander couldn't believe what he was seeing. His chest tightened. This wasn't just a rude joke, it was cruelty. The kind of cruelty that reveals who someone really is when they think no one important is watching. Here's the problem. Alexander had built his whole future around this woman. He planned to marry her, share his wealth, maybe even start a family. But in that single moment, he saw a side of her that terrified him. He realized that if she could treat someone who worked for them with such disdain, what would happen when life threw real challenges at them? Could he trust her with his heart, his family, his future? He had to act. But how do you confront someone you thought you knew so well? Alexander didn't storm out right away. He knew that reacting in anger might just turn into a shouting match. Instead, he stayed quiet and watched, because sometimes silence reveals more than words. Victoria kept laughing while Maria, her eyes cast down, kept walking with the trash bag, pretending not to hear. But the way her lips pressed tightly together showed she did hear every word. She just chose to keep her dignity intact, which made Victoria's cruelty stand out even more. Later that evening at dinner, Alexander gently brought up the subject. He asked Victoria what she thought about Maria. Without hesitation, she rolled her eyes. "She's just the help," she said. "People like her are lucky to even have a job in a place like this." That sentence hit him like a punch in the gut. He remembered his own past, the nights when his family couldn't afford heat, when neighbors had to pitch in just so they could buy food. He thought of his mother who cleaned houses just like Maria to keep them afloat. If someone had ever laughed at her the way Victoria just had, young Alexander would have been crushed. At that moment, the pieces started falling into place. Victoria didn't see people, she saw categories. To her, Maria wasn't a hardworking woman with a family. She was the help. And if that's how she treated Maria, who else would she look down on? Alexander realized he was facing more than just an awkward moment. He was facing a truth about his fiancée that could change everything. The next day, Alexander decided to set things straight, not just privately, but in a way that would reveal Victoria's true colors to everyone. He invited a few close friends and business partners over for lunch at the mansion. Victoria, of course, dressed to impress. Maria was there too, moving quietly in the background, serving drinks and food. Halfway through the meal, Alexander stood up and raised his glass. I want to make an announcement, he said. There's someone in this house who deserves recognition. Someone who works tirelessly, never complains, and carries a strength most people don't notice. That person is Maria. Everyone turned toward Maria, who looked shocked, her cheeks flushing red. Alexander continued, She's not just our maid. She's a mother, a fighter, and someone I deeply respect. She reminds me of my own mother, who once did the same work to keep us alive. The room fell silent. Victoria shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her smile fading. And then Alexander turned to Maria and said, From this day forward, you're no longer just working here as staff. You'll have your daughter's education fully funded, and you'll be given a new role in the household that reflects the respect you deserve. Gasps filled the room. Maria's eyes welled up with tears. She had no words, just a nod of gratitude. But the silence was quickly broken by Victoria. Are you serious? She snapped. She's just the maid. You can't just... And that was it. That was the moment Alexander knew what he had to do. He looked her straight in the eye and said, If you can't respect the people who make this house a home, then you don't belong in it. This engagement is over. The entire table froze. Victoria's jaw dropped. For once, she was speechless. And Maria, the woman who had been mocked and humiliated, was now the one everyone respected. That day, Alexander's decision sent shockwaves through his circle. Some called him bold. Others said he was crazy for ending things so publicly. But Alexander didn't care. He knew he had dodged a bullet. Because if you want to know someone's true character, don't look at how they treat people above them. Look at how they treat people below them. Victoria left, her pride shattered. Maria stayed not as just the maid, but as someone finally recognized for her worth. And Alexander? He found peace knowing he had chosen integrity over image. The mansion looked the same as it always had, grand and polished, but the energy inside was completely different. For the first time, it felt like a home built not just on wealth, but on respect. And that right there was the real twist. If you thought that was powerful, wait until you see the next story. It's popping up on your screen right now.